right. As usual, I'm going to have to film videos on the go because things are still pretty hectic. But, it's been a while since Hegseth's speech to all the generals. And I thought I would respond to at least a couple parts of it. Now, I'm not shy about mentioning that I got a problem with Hegseth. A lot of that's because he is dramatically unqualified for his job, based simply on experience. The job is the job of an elder statesman. The average age is 59 years old. For anyone who starts that job, he's 40. The average rank of military personnel doing that job is general. He was a major. It's a lower rank than I was when I got out. He doesn't demonstrate the temperament. Railing about other people's qualifications is just outright delusional for a guy who's not really qualified to be doing what he's doing. But that's what we have. That's what we're dealing with. So anyway, during his speech, he said a lot of things that were, I would say, probably annoying if I was a general to hear somebody like him rail on about the things he was talking about. But one thing that I did agree with was people being overweight. He also talked about beards and about facial grooming standards. You can see, I shave. Even now, I'm not active duty anymore, but I wore facial hair for my entire medical career. And I had a shaving profile, which is one of the things that he said people have to get rid of. If I didn't, I would break out in these bumps if I attempted to shave more than about once every 2 weeks. So I would shave it once every 2 weeks. Now, I didn't have those beards that you see where people have a full-grown beard that's trimmed. I wasn't bold enough to do that. I didn't really care if people did, but whatever. But let me focus on his complaining about fat people in the military and fat generals. Now, ironically, I agree with him on this one. When I was in the infantry, back when I was in my 20s, I was staggered by how, I guess I'll just say weak, I considered the average military man. I was in the infantry, so our job was to fight the enemy with weapons, maybe even hand-to-hand if it came to it. And we were expected to be able to move 12 miles with a heavy rucksack if necessary. And the amount of men under my control and in my vicinity who just weren't very strong, I found it disturbing. And I found it, I don't know, just discouraging, because I thought that the military was more elite than I had discovered it was. Now, the number of people who were outright fat and overweight, I didn't really appreciate that until I left the infantry. And as a doctor, I took care of people all over the military. And then I started to see that huge portions of the U.S. military are not fit at all. And I thought that was also a little bit concerning. But here's where it gets interesting. Mr. Hegseth says that he's implementing a rule that all people in the military will take 2 PT tests and do PT every day of the week. Well, the problem with that is generally mandated by the commanders and below. He just tried to seize control of something at the Department of Defense level that is generally managed by captains and under. Same with grooming standards. Generally, that is a commander, an O3, who dictates that sort of thing. So he's already overreaching. And of course, why he needs to reach that hard publicly, why he needs to tell all the generals in the world, all the U.S. generals stationed around the world, this particular message in front of the entire country on video is just baffling. It doesn't really demonstrate good leadership, as this could have just been said anywhere at any time by publishing policies and then enforcing them and then pulling individual commanders in who weren't enforcing it. But to say it publicly to all of them after flying them across the world is a little ridiculous. But regardless, the real issue is that he believes physical fitness, 1.5 hours a day, will actually take care of the problem. See, I don't know if he realizes this. I don't know if most people realize this, but you can do physical fitness 2 hours a day. and it's not actually going to make you lose that much weight. This was the irony of The Biggest Loser, the show. They recently did a documentary on the show and how badly it failed in the long term, because you don't really lose weight by exercising. You lose weight by not eating as much food and not eating the types of foods that make you gain weight. Case in point, when I was stationed in Italy, my wife and I would play this game called Let's See If We Can Find the Americans. I think I mentioned it on this channel before. And that would be when we were at the mall, walking around. The food in Italy is extremely different from the United States, so much so that our Italian neighbors would often ask us to go get American junk food from the commissary for them. Especially this stuff right here. They love this. I still have not eaten it to this day. Yuck. All right. Anyway, the reason why we could play this game called Find the Americans is because despite the fact that U.S. Army soldiers carried much more muscle mass than the average Italian, you didn't have to see their muscle mass. It could be in the middle of the winter and you could always see the Americans anywhere. And it was because our faces are puffy. Our faces are swollen from all the junk food that we eat. While Italians' faces, almost universally, are very well defined and minimal fat on their body. And I don't think that is because they're exercising, although they did seem to integrate exercise into their daily life a little more. Like, for instance, the Italian government had increased the cost of gas. It was twice the cost of gas in the United States. So the military would give us these coupons where we could get our gas half off. Now, the effect of Italians elevating the cost of gas on their citizens was that more people walked or rode bicycles, and hence they were more healthy. But America was like, no, don't worry about that. Just keep driving. Here's some coupons so you can continue to drive as much as you did back in the U.S. I thought that was a little bit, well, I can't say it's wrong, but why not just have us try it out? But anyway, even Americans that exercise, because I was stationed in the 173rd Airborne, and this is a relatively elite infantry unit. And still, despite the fact that we were in a relatively elite, high-intensity infantry unit, most of the people still carry more weight on their body than the average Italian citizen who was not in the military. So as I said before, I've published many videos on the American food situation. American food is awful. And I don't just mean the junk food or what you believe is junk food. I mean top to bottom, every single food product you are capable of purchasing in the United States is awful for you. If it comes out of a bottle, out of a bag, out of a wrapper, out of a sack, if it's anything other than the produce that just fell off of a tree and was just hauled in on a cart, it is absolutely terrible for you. It's roughly 4 times more calories and roughly 3 to 4 times more sugar by weight than natural food products. American food products are meant to simply enhance the profits of the companies that sell them, and they do nothing for your overall nutrition. So when Pete Hegseth believes that he's going to solve the U.S. military's problem by having people exercise every single day of the week, he is horribly deluded. That's not going to change anything, because all the bases have a Burger King, a Popeyes, not McDonald's. Very rarely do they have a McDonald's. The Navy has a deal with McDonald's, but the Army has an arrangement with Burger King. Isn't that funny? So there's always a Burger King, there's always a Popeyes. Every single gas station is chock full of all the junk food you see in every 7-Eleven. Packaged, high sugar content, very few natural food products available. And this is what Americans will eat on and off duty, late into the night. You see, if America really wanted to get serious about making fit and strong soldiers, what they would do is they would lead an education campaign, which I attempted to maybe have some role in it, but I got sort of frustrated with the fact that nobody actually cares. See, if the United States military led an education campaign And they let it big time, like got on television, got on social media, and started to actually advertise or educate against all of the food companies. They could have a trickle-down effect where not only does the military get healthy, but we actually make the children healthy who are going to be in the military tomorrow. See, it's in their best interest to actually do this. The problem is they would have to pass on the short-term money given to them by the food companies that come on base and load our gas stations and our military bases with junk food. And they'd have to go to the long-term benefit of a healthier population, which most people, most corporations in the United States are not willing to really do. They would much rather make their short-term profits destroying human bodies and reaping profits from garbage food than to actually build a healthy population that understands how food works. And as I said before, most of this junk food is peddled or is sold to us because most people don't understand how the food works and they don't understand what's in it. They go through a lot of efforts to make sure that we can't properly read the food labels, that we don't understand what we're looking at. They even change the number of servings per package. So sometimes a single product will have a bit more calories than anyone would actually want to eat. So what they'll do is they'll give you the calories per serving, but it turns out there's 2 or 3 servings inside of this one package. Knowing that you're actually going to eat the entire contents of that package, they'll still say that that package contains multiple servings, so that when you look at the label, you simply see the calories per serving, which does not reflect the calories inside of that package. It's very sneaky, it's very deceptive, and it's meant to keep you less than informed so that you'll continue to purchase the products which are harming you. So the military itself, if it wanted to do better, it would focus on food. It would not focus on exercise. I myself have lost far more weight by not eating than I ever did by exercise. And of course, what I mean is as I got older. So when I was about 34, I remember I was running 5 miles roughly every few days, and I was gaining weight while running every few days. That's how the aging process works while you're eating the garbage. See, when you eat the garbage as a young man, you can burn through it. When you eat the garbage as a mid-30s, you can't burn through it anymore. The average person believes that they're gaining weight because they're aging, when actually, no. You're gaining weight because your body can no longer deal with what you're putting in it. So I remember thinking, just like the average person, well, I must need to exercise more and eat less. But of course, I was already exercising quite a bit, and I had already cut back a little bit. So then I thought, if I exercise more and I eat less, I'm going to pass out. So what's the answer? And then I concluded it must be I'm eating the wrong things, but I didn't know how that could be. Because I wasn't eating junk food or what I thought of as junk food. And eventually, slowly, by watching documentaries such as Forks Over Knives and Food Inc. and things like that, I started to figure out what very few people will say publicly, which is that the entire food system, top to bottom, is corrupted and is simply created to maximize profits sent to the top. And I don't think it's intentional, but the effect is that it does maximum damage to people at the bottom. The less you know about food, the more damage you take, until it's too late to really fix, because you're so heavy that you can't exercise, and you're so addicted to the food that you can't turn it down. And by the way, the cheapest food often tastes better than the realest food. So if I were to be sitting on a board and advising Hegseth, which he would never listen to me, but if I were to say, look, Hegseth, you got the plan wrong, I would say do this. During basic training, spend significant amounts of time training soldiers on how to eat, on how to pass on the food that they've grown up loving so much. Show them what natural food is. Show them the food labels. Spend significant amounts of time teaching them how to read American food labels and how to identify products which are going to put weight on you and products which won't. Then get them used to eating fresh food again. Because the truth is, if you've been eating what I could like to call fake food or processed food or dehydrated packaged food that's really high in sugar and carbs and low in actual fresh nutrients, that vegetables and fruit doesn't exactly taste great to you. It takes a little bit to get used to it again. It takes a while for you to look forward to eating raw carrots, raw cucumbers. I do now. I eat a lot of raw spinach, broccoli, carrots, cucumbers. I eat a lot of fresh fruit. In fact, one of my techniques is that I tell people part of your problem is that you're addicted to sugar. You're highly addicted to sugar, and I know you are because you're in America, and they load sugar in everything. I remember eating Pizza Hut pizza when I came back from Italy, and I could immediately taste the sugar in the tomato sauce. And I could taste the sugar in the crust and in the cheese. And I had never been able to taste it before because it was the only thing I ate. But while you're in Italy, they don't add sugar to the dough, they don't add sugar to the tomato sauce, they don't add it to the cheese. So the entire time I'm in Italy, I'm eating what is essentially bland but well-seasoned pizza. And when I get back to the United States and I take my first bite of Pizza Hut, I'm just blown away by how much sugar I'm tasting. And so this is everybody. We all have a sweet tooth and we're all addicted. And so the key is you have to teach people, okay, well, it's going to be hard to say no sugar, but why don't we recalibrate the sugar? All right. So one thing I would do is I would try to eat vegetables all day with maybe a piece of fruit, just a little bit, because if you have no fruit, no sugar, you'll tend to feel a little bit run down. It's kind of hard to think. You have low energy. So I'll eat a lot of greens during the day. And then at night, as part of my dessert, I would have like a bowl of sliced strawberries or something like that. So that you're still getting sugar, but you're only getting the sugar that you were meant to eat. The sugar that was put on earth when we got here. Because the artificial sugar, which is essentially extracted from sugar cane and then dumped into all these man-made products in America, that stuff right there just does a number on your body. So you don't have to do without sugar. You don't have to live a life free of all sugar. Instead, what you can do is just, set aside a set time during the day when you're going to get sugar and then spend the rest of the day kind of avoiding it. All right. So that would be my advice to U.S. military members as well as to military leadership. Teach people how to eat properly. And if you can, get those people off the bases. Get Burger King off the base. Get Popeyes off the base. Stand up a fresh food vendor who does nothing but prepare from raw ingredients and make it available to soldiers late at night, because late at night soldiers are going to eat. If all they have is potato chips, Doritos, Cheetos, whatever, or Burger King, that's what they're going to eat. And they're young and they like to have fun. So if you don't make healthy choices available to them and you don't educate them on how our body actually works and how it responds to certain foods, well, you're going to have fat soldiers. And no amount of PT is really going to change that in a high number. So, that's my take on nutrition, fatness, and the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War. Get out of here, bro. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll talk to you later.